Okay, welcome everybody to the January meeting of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. We have a lot of things going on tonight, and we have a big crowd here today. I think we have 24 folks in the room and 17 online, maybe 18, which constitutes a quorum. That word is going to be important later. So, any visitors here today? Yes, Matt. I know Matt's not a visitor. Well, welcome. Picked a good guy to be associated with, and welcome to the club. And find this in a lot of exciting things going on. So board members, I'm Bob Sirkis. I'm president. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else? New member. Glenn, welcome. So John, that makes number 193. Gary, welcome. Awesome. And we're going to have another one before the end of the week. Will be a 195. We're getting close to that magic number. 194? Yeah. We'll be close. Okay. We'll be getting to 195, close to the magic number. So awesome. Fort Worth Astronomical Society has been in existence for 80 years now. Founded by Charlie Mary Noble, and is namesake of the planetarium. We do lots of outreach, build telescopes, and we have the bullets right here. So we're close to 200. Hope to be at 200 at the end of the club year. We have a lot of experience. We have visual observers, driving Chris nuts. Okay, I guess that's my. So we do a lot of imaging. Like I said, a lot of outreach. If you have any questions about anything, let us know. There got lots of answers pretty quickly. Do a lot of outreach. Patrick McMahon takes care of all of our outreach, and John McCrae takes care of a very important thing called Tandy Hills, which is picking up March. Yes, John? Yep. That's pretty busy. Cy Simonson, who's online, is leading our Young Astronomers group, which just restarted. For nonprofit organizations, actually, John. Okay, so just go, here's for all your officers. Bill Hall, the Velvet Bill Hall. Got just that right, Brady. John Giarmini back there in the corner with the black hat is our treasurer. Monica Merritt, I think she is online as secretary. I see Jim Potts, our directors. Ed Smith is not here. Cy Simonson is our legal beagle and director, a director. Bruce Campbell is a director, I believe. Executive board. We have lots of committees. Our development committee, public outreach, Patrick and Solar Eclipse team, Chris Hockey right here. And Juan Martinez, Palo Pinto Mountain State Park. Tom Roth, do you have any reports? Thompson Observatory, that's a partnership with ourselves and the Southwest Division. I technical assistance for them and really phenomenal place. Donated 17. Gonna go on. George Lutch is our prime focus editor. Bill's role, he okay, I'm going to turn it over to Bill.
So in another effort to not cram solar astronomy down, expand your education, cram it down your throat. I want to introduce somebody. It's Leticia Ferrer. She's seen 18 total solar eclipses. 20. You've seen 20 total. A total of 20. So the cool thing, we were talking in the last meeting, and 2017, she was 5 minutes away. 2019, she was down, stayed in Chile the night before. Anyway.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone. The eclipse is coming. The eclipse is coming. It's coming. So excited. I saw everybody. Reality. Vision. Planning and time and effort, and every time you set this up to go, it feels like I'm getting to go somewhere. every 11 to 18 months to go see something really, really cool. And then you also do some side trips, which I'll be talking about. But this is my life plan, my goal. This map here, I highly recommend you buy one and put it up on your wall. It's by Michael Zeiler with eclipsemaps.com or Great American Eclipse. And I have this up on my wall to remind me of where I'm going. I'm going someplace. All the time I'm going someplace. Next slide. Try to make sure I'm gonna not go too fast. So does anybody get, this is what started me on chasing total solar eclipses. Can anybody get the hint? Yes, and why is that? And you flew your Learjet to Nova Scotia to see the total eclipse of the sun. I was 12 years old when that song came out. I was living in a small town in Texas, feeling stuck. Because you know how you are when you're 12. You can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, your mom and dad won't let you do anything. And that song, oh my gosh, you walk into a party like you're walking onto a yacht. I know it's a woman complaining about an arrogant man. I wanted to be that arrogant man. I wanted to have that sense of style. I wanted to fly Learjets to see total solar eclipses all over the planet. But then life went on, and it wasn't until 1991 that I got to see my first total solar eclipse down in Mexico. And the way this happened, of course, they started promoting that the solar eclipse was coming, the solar eclipse is coming, it's coming to Mexico. People are starting to fill up Mexico. It's going to be the longest total solar eclipse of the century. Wow. And all of a sudden that song started popping in my head. And you flew your Learjet to Nova Scotia to see a total eclipse of the sun. As it turned out then, I was married and my husband was in construction. And he worked a lot. And when he took a vacation, it was to the World of Concrete in Las Vegas, which he worked even more. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you need to take a vacation. And he came home and told me this, and I go, total solar eclipse in Mexico. We should go. And it was in July, which is the busiest time of year for somebody in construction. But he agreed. So off we flew to, I actually got very, very close to Eclipse Max totally by accident. We couldn't get into, everybody went to La Paz because the weather was supposed to be fantastic. And I tried to get a flight to La Paz, but the only flight I could get landed right during totality. That wasn't going to work. So we ended up flying in 2 weeks early to Puerto Vallarta, which is a little south here, staying for a few weeks. And then on the day of the eclipse, we made arrangements for somebody. Talked to the concierge. You went to you didn't Google then. You called the concierge, the hotel concierge. And they got us on a tour that took us up to the beach near Centerline, and we watched it from the beach. And I took a camera with me. I had some little point and shoots. And I will make a confession in this crowd because I know you guys will feel me. I did an amateur mistake, and please use it as a warning. Always keep the solar filter on top of the camera. I had it off. I was setting up and didn't cover it. I burned a little half moon into the back of the camera, and it was an old film camera. And it wasn't my camera. So, warning. You can't really do that with the new digitals, but if you're planning on doing old school film, that's a warning. Always keep your lenses covered with filters. Anyway, brand new newbie mistake, so I didn't get any pictures. I got no pictures. This picture is Mr. Eclipse, Fred Espenak. Is anybody familiar with him? Okay. Fred Espenak is Mr. Eclipse. He runs MrEclipse.com. He's the one that has written the book of all the eclipses from 2000 BC to 3000 AD. He's got the time, when it's going to start, the location, the local circumstances, everything. He and a guy by the name of Sean Meas have figured it out and have published books on this, and I have one on my coffee table. But this is Fred's eclipse, and it was just this beautiful, oh, actually more beautiful. Pictures, videos, nothing can describe. Who did see the 2017? Can you describe it to anybody? And do they get it? No one gets it. You have to experience it to get it. You do. So my first eclipse, totality, 6 minutes, 53 seconds. Keep that number in mind as you watch me go through these other eclipses I've been to, because I'm insane. All right, the next one. So the next one, so these are the ones I missed. I want to put them on there. One of the things that has changed in my life after this period, well, first off, my husband and I, we planned on having kids, but we didn't think we could afford to go to these places. I couldn't go to South America 2 times. I couldn't go to Mongolia. The thought of even getting outside of the country besides Mexico. When I went to Mexico in 1991, all I had to carry was my driver's license. Canada was the same way back then. Who knew about going to Indonesia? Oh my gosh. I mean, the concept of international travel was just not in my head, and it was blocking me. Because the first thing I asked after 1991 was, when and where's the next one? It was only in South America. It was not South America. It's South America. Not that far. But I didn't have in my head the international travel concept. But the next one that I finally got to, go ahead and do the next slide, was near Antigua, the Caribbean. I mean, who doesn't go to the Caribbean, right? It's safe. Tourists go there all the time. Again, I don't know how to work a camera, which is why I have no pictures of this one. So I'm using this one from Hannah Druckmüller and Muslava Druckmüller. If you guys do write this name down, and actually, Chris, I'll give you a link to go to his site. I think I might have given some links out to Bill. He takes the best pictures that are donated to him. He does mathematical modeling on them and then stacks these photos to create these great pictures of the of the solar eclipse. And he's got them going all the way back to like 1885 or so. The guy is a math genius. We just don't know who's going to take over for him. You know any young people who are really good at math? Here's a project. But we went on the ship, the Monarch of the Seas, loved it, went to Antigua, went to Barbados, went to the beach, drank too much, watched other people drink way too much, just had your usual cruise time, and we loved it. And my husband was just, by this time he's going, yeah, this might be a pretty good idea. The difference for me, though, was I was hanging out with other eclipse chasers for this trip. I was talking to people that had seen them 8 times, 9 times. This was their 3rd, their 4th. And one person was their 20th. And I realized, and by this time my husband and I didn't have kids like we planned. And I just said, you know, that's a really good idea. So I started planning. And the next one we went on to, and I hope I put it in here because I don't remember putting it in. Nope, I didn't put it in. I missed one. The 1991 one, which was a cruise with Buzz Aldrin. Now, granted, it was in the North Atlantic. It actually went through Europe, but my husband loved cruising because he didn't have to walk that much, and it had Buzz Aldrin. And one thing about this one is we ended up with the eclipse here on on April 8th in 2024, everybody knows we're praying for clear skies, right? Everybody's praying for clear skies. But on this one, we ended up with a lucky hole. right at totality. We went through a rain squall. And what happens with the eclipses is eclipse weather will cause a hole sometimes, or it could cause a cloud to form. But if you're already committed to a spot, just keep praying, because you might get lucky. I got a lucky hole for that one, even though I'd been in a rain squall for 20 minutes prior to that. So that was a lucky hole. Sorry, I forgot. I thought I caught everything. The next big one for me was the one I went to. Well, I actually went with a girlfriend because my husband just wasn't going to go to Africa. And this one was a challenging trip for me. I did go with my girlfriend, but she went before me because she was doing some touring before that. I met her. My plan was for me to meet the tour in Zambia. I get to South Africa, and I had what later turned out to be a very profound moment for me. I walked into the passport control in Johannesburg, and above me are men in khaki uniforms and machine guns walking the perimeter above me and overlooking passport control. And this was June of 2001. In my American smugness, I was like, man, I'm glad I live in the US because we never have anything like that. Yeah. I flew out October of 2001, and there was a very nice gentleman in khakis and a machine gun at the airport. In hindsight, I realized how smug I was feeling and how lucky I was at that time in that moment. How lucky we were. I loved traveling in the 90s. Anyway, I landed in Johannesburg, got to the gate. They didn't have, the transition wasn't made to the online tickets. I had my paper ticket. They didn't have my reservation. And I had to do, and so I couldn't get to Zambia. They were able to get me a flight to Harare, where I would have to stay overnight. No reservation, no nothing. I was first class. My husband was making money then. I'd saved up a lot of points traveling for work. So I was first class, so I was able to get a hotel in Harare, where I felt, it was a very nice hotel, and I felt pretty safe. But I walked across to an outdoor market. And I didn't really want to buy anything. I was going to haul around for 3 weeks. I ended up getting mobbed because I was the only one in the market, and it scared me. And I pulled out my inner text, and it just told everybody to back off, and they were like, and I was able to get them back. And that, quite frankly, has been the scariest moment in all my travels. Is that one time that I almost got mobbed in an African market. And I understand why. They were just desperate to sell me something. They were nice people. They were just desperate to sell me something. Anyway, it didn't deter me. I went back to eclipse chasing. We got to Zambia. Again, I still don't take very good pictures. So this is I think this is one from Milasov. And then the next one after that, how am I doing on time? I'm probably going too fast. No. How long do I have till? 8? Because we got a few more to go. Okay. The next one was someplace very safe and lovely, was Australia. And my husband and I did the tour on this one. We took, where's that? Am I supposed to be pressing something?
Tighten up.
Oh, I must have loosened it.
Oh, loosen it and then tighten it up. Now whack it with your hand on the side.
I think you're gonna have to come operate this. And yes, it's not pointing anymore.
All right.
All right, well here, I'm just gonna go over here. We took the GON train all the way up to Alice Springs. I know I slipped out of frame. So we did a big trip on this one. We went to Sydney, we went to Melbourne, we went the GON train into Alice Springs, met a ton. We joined a group called Explorers, which I'll talk about a little bit more on that. I joined a group called Explorers, which is a British eclipse company. The guy runs tours, he's still running tours, run all over the world for solar eclipses. And I did the tour with his group, and it was just amazing. Definitely another plus on that. But we saw it in Australia, and this time I got a picture. I got a picture. It's the eclipse at sunset. You can see the moon's shadow in the sky. It gets better, I trust me. My pictures will get better. And again, Mila saw's picture on this one. But totality in Africa, remember that first eclipse? Totality, 6 minutes, 53 seconds. Totality in Africa is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Totality in Australia, where you take a 20-hour flight, 29 seconds. That is insane. And do not ask me to calculate the cost per second. I don't want to hear it. I do not want to hear the cost per second. Okay, next slide. Oh, I did want to show this one. This is one of my pictures. This is shadow bands. You guys know what shadow bands are? Okay. Well, for those of you who don't, shadow bands are just before totality and just after totality. The light from the sun starts to flicker, and it feels like you're in the bottom of a pool, and it creates these little shadow bands on the ground. And it's very hard to capture. And I got this picture because what you're supposed to do is take a sheet or something white, lay it down on the ground, and then just before totality or something, or just before totality and after totality, have a camera pointed at the sheet, and then be looking on the sheet to see if you can see the shadow bands. And we saw them in the 2001 eclipse. They are very cool. Okay, next slide. 2003. November 23rd, 2003. Back in Texas, it was November 22nd, my birthday. So this was a great birthday present. This is the hard to get to. This is the eclipse that back in 2001, before I was even planning, I'd looked into where I needed to go for 2003, and it was Antarctica. There was one ship that Fred Espenak was on going to Antarctica. The cost to share a cabin with someone. Oh, it was a Russian icebreaker. It was a 1-month cruise. The cost to share a cabin with someone else, not a luxury cabin, was $30,000. I put down a deposit. Insanity, I know. Lucky for me, when we went to Australia in 2002 and we talked to some of the other eclipse chasers, I found out that there was a plane that would leave from Melbourne, travel over Antarctica, and do this little Antarctica tour. It's something that actually Qantas does every year. They do these overflights over Antarctica every year around this time in November. And Glenn Schneider, dedicated eclipse chaser, talked to Qantas and made arrangements for a plane to fly through the eclipse. So we all got on the plane at the eclipse. We landed, and for half that $30,000, my husband and I got to go to first class. But for a 24-hour flight, you really, really want. And thank God my husband was making money back then. So we went to take this flight, 24 hours. And the funny thing about it is that there was an eclipse side of the plane and a non-eclipse side of the plane, because they had to fly it kind of at an angle so that we could see the eclipse. And a lot of people were on the non-eclipse side of the plane because really the tour is flying over Antarctica. That's the main tour that they do. So we have all the eclipse people on there. It's a 24-hour flight. So everybody's starting to mill around and get up from their seats and walk around the plane and everything like that. And I'm sitting there in my seat, and I keep checking, I know when it's going to start, but you don't really know on the plane when exactly it's going to start, not like when you know on land. And the calculations have been getting better and better, by the way. So I kept checking, and finally I went, first contact. You felt the plane shift as everybody ran back to the left side of the plane. I could just feel that pilot going, right rudder, right rudder. And that's when everything started. I mean, that was a great flight. We had the Japanese astronomy scientist in the seat in front of us. I've never seen a get up like they had. They had blacked out the entire windows. They had suction cupped their cameras to the window. They had it down. You should look at their photos if you get a chance online. They are very, very cool. Again, my picture. This is one of my favorites though. The reason is, and I'm going to step out of frame again, sorry. This is the shadow of the moon on the ice. And then you see the sun coming up from behind on the other. I just love this picture. And it wasn't even by me. My husband actually took it with a point and shoot. We bought a brand new video camera. Nothing came out. Hey, I know. And again, I don't want to know. Oh, what did I put the time? 1 minute, 57 seconds. Do not ask me the cost. Do not ask me to calculate the cost. Okay. But it was a great, great tour. And the next one, another hard to get to. And look at the totality. This one is literally in the middle of the, go ahead and point over there, Chris, where it's literally in the middle of the Pacific. We went to the Galapagos and then took a ship for 4 days to see a 30-second eclipse. And then 4 days back. Guess what? I found out later. Everybody was sick on that ship. It was just they kept saying the ocean, everything else. It was literally one of these type of tours. And I found out a decade or two later from the tour organizer chef. Yeah, we found out that ship their impeller was busted. That's why. It was an island hopping ship around the Galapagos. It wasn't an ocean going ship. They never knew their impeller was broken because they were island hopping. So I didn't have a problem. My husband and I had iron stomachs. We were good. Only thing it did for me was it made me sleepy. I had bought a stack of science fiction to read. I think I got through 2 books because I kept sleeping through the whole thing. Anyway, the great part of this tour, though, is that I did a side trip. We did the Galapagos, again on my bucket list. Toured Galapagos, went all over. These are some of the seals and the birds that I saw there. And then I did a side trip to Machu Picchu. And I was substantially heavier than I am now, but I was trying to get better about myself and being a little more healthy. So I decided from Machu Picchu, you can climb something called UNT Picchu. And it's supposed to take the normal person about 4 hours. Well, I was way big and out of shape and everything. I said, I'll just take my time and do it in 8 hours. Left real early at 7 in the morning. I made it to the top. And it was a real cool climb because at a part of it, they actually like dug handholds into the granite that you climbed up. And I looked down, it was like a 2,000-foot drop below me. It was really cool, and I'm not scared of heights. I grew up on my dad's job site, so I'm not scared of heights. I climbed up, and then these very nice young men helped me down because there were a couple spots I had trouble. But I had a great time. And then I was reading decades later on Facebook. Those are called the stairs of death. Okay, I've done the stairs of death. But anyway, again, this time I got some pictures. A little bit better. Still not fantastic. Got a little bit better camera and a little bit I got the Bailey's beads this time. You'll point them out. No, that's more of a diamond ring. The other one's the Bailey's beads where you get the red around the corona. Pictures are getting a little bit better. Starting to get a little experience here. And then next one. Libya. This is not as hard to get to as you would thought. What happened what happened when the eclipse went to Libya is that Libya back at that time or before that was not letting Americans in because, you know, we always have problems with Libya. But the international community says, well, if you don't let them in, we're not going to come to Libya. And it's a lot of tourists, international tourists for the eclipse. We took a cruise. My husband loved cruises. For the Costa Classica. And we went to Libya, and this is us on the site in Libya. And you can just see how many people are around us. And that's my first husband in the sun, all covered up. And that's me. Again, I'm still pretty chunky. I'm still kind of chunky, but not as big as I was then. But this one was good. A little bit better, 3 minutes, 58 seconds. And this tour included Genoa, the Cinque Terre, a couple places in the Med, Greece. It was worth it. It was really worth it. So yes, I do chase total solar eclipses, but I do go visit other things too. It's fun. And still got a picture. Not a great picture, but got a picture. Next one. China. Totality 1 minute, 55 seconds. Now this tour, I got super, super lucky, or the eclipse was just super, super lucky for me. It was August 1st, 2008. Does anybody remember what happened on August 8th, 2008 in China? Exactly. I went in before that and it was clean. I saw the people cleaning the river. It was clean. There was no traffic. Only problem we ran into is we booked a hotel that apparently hadn't opened yet. They were waiting. But this was a great tour. The only thing about the tour was that every stop had a gift shop. And you were expected to go through. You stop at a museum, you know, the gift shop. It was pretty amazing. But this one was a great eclipse. We did have spotty clouds. And quite frankly, for 2024, for 2024, April 8th, this is kind of what I'm worried about. Because this is usually our weather here in April. 50-50, that's usually 50% clouds. But we ended up getting, the clouds moved just before totality. So we ended up getting, I think it was this little cloud right about there. This one, I've got a diamond ring with Venus, and I got Venus this time. Yay! Better pictures. Again, not being able, I know Chris is just like, that's not a great picture. I know. Everybody. Hey, for me, I'm amazed. And I think Mercury and Venus are also in that blue there. Anyway, it was a great tour all over China. I do want to go back. There was something I ran into called the 900 Caves of Buddha. And I'm definitely going to try to go back the next time I have to go for an eclipse in China. It was just a fascinating place. I want to go back to that. Okay, I'm still okay on time? Yeah, good. 2009, this was another cruise. My husband loved cruises. Again, maximum eclipse. This time it was 6 minutes, 36.9 seconds. And you know why? Can anybody tell me why this one seemed almost as long as the one in 1991? Okay, it's called the Saros. Eclipses come in Saros. They're 18 months, 11 days, and 8 hours apart. So the same eclipse path that came through Mexico in 1991 is repeated here. It's about the same length of an eclipse. It's just moved around a third of the way around the world because of the 8 hours. So this is basically the same eclipse I saw in 1991, but now I'm seeing it in 2009. This was my second eclipse of the Saros, and the Saros number is 136. And I'll talk a little bit more about Saros because I'm fascinated by them now. That's when you start geeking out on eclipses, it is. So this is my second Saros of this one, my second longest eclipse. We were near Iwo Jima, and then we actually turned this tour into a wonderful tour of Japan. If you do ever get to Hiroshima, it was one of the most profound moments of my life also, going through their museum there. Again, I didn't get great pictures, so you're seeing one of Druckmüller's. But again, this is my first Saros, my second eclipse of the Saros, and this is things I'm starting to collect now. But because I didn't see anything in the 90, I didn't get another Saros for a while. And then this one, can you click on that and see if that shows the video? Yes. Stop it there. See that shadow? I did. Told you it gets better. Sunset eclipse, South America, it's cold, and literally all I did was take the point and shoot, stick it in the ground, and point and watch the eclipse. I got lucky. Go ahead and finish playing it. I cut this down to 30 seconds because it was a 3 minute and 43 seconds. This was bittersweet for me, this eclipse. My first husband passed away a month before this. And yeah, I made the choice to go without him. See this one. He did get to see 7 total solar eclipses with me. And this is a man who would not take vacations. So in my opinion, his life was enriched chasing these with me. But I got a great video. I'm sorry, I love that video. Actually, it was so funny. Somebody emailed me because I had my video, I had it up. I was like the first one up after I got this, and I had 40,000 hits. I was like, yay! And then before the 2017 eclipse, somebody emailed me. He goes, you know, people are stealing your video and putting it up as the 2017 eclipse. It's like, and it was sunset? Yeah, right. Nobody knows what they're doing. The other little note here, go back for a second. The other little note, this was the day of the 2010 FIFA World Cup against Spain. Or Spain was in it. And I'm in South America. Every single guide was in the tent watching the game. They were not watching the eclipse. They had it set up. They had a giant TV, heaters on, everything. But they were watching the game, not the eclipse. Just a little personal note. Everybody has their own passion. All right, next. Again, I did lose my husband in 2010. I did enjoy being married. So a year later, and I'd been with my first husband for 30 years. I met him when I was young. So I did the one thing you do when you don't know how to date, you get online. And the one thing I did when I put myself online was the very first statement was, I don't know what my next relationship is, but I'm going to be seeing every total solar eclipse on the face of the planet. The way I figure it, a bunch of people just weeded themselves out because they didn't know what that was. Another set knew what that was and knew what that cost and weeded themselves out. And then one brave soul called me. And that's him there in 2012 with me. We're not married. Oh, we weren't married yet then. But he went with me. Great Barrier Reef, Australia. That's on somebody's bucket list in this room. We did a cruise dive boat, a combination cruise dive boat, eclipse tour boat. Snorkel, eclipse, crew dive. Who can say no to that? And it came off the Great Barrier Reef. The ship, the cruise boat that I was on, the owner was on the boat, so we got the best spot. It was awesome. And go ahead and play the video. This one should play. It was a very bright eclipse. It didn't get really dark because of the light from the sea. Yes, that's me screaming in the background. I just love that little couple in the background, in the foreground, I mean. Anyway, this is the first eclipse, total solar eclipse that I'd gone with my husband. And yes, we're still together, we're married, you'll get to see more pictures of him. The next one. This is what an eclipse chaser who gets clouded out looks like. Yeah, there is a video there, Chris. You can go ahead and play it, but it's pretty disappointing. Yeah. Kind of see it go, go, go. It just kind of disappears into the clouds. Yeah. So disappointing. So disappointing. The only great thing about this, and again, another one, 41 seconds. Do not ask me to calculate the cost. Actually, this was a great cruise. This was a repositioning cruise of a ship called the Sea Dream. The Sea Dream's cruises in the Mediterranean at the time were running between $15,000 and $20,000. It was a luxury cruise boat. 100 passengers had 110 crew members to wait on us. My eggs were perfect every morning. They would pour tea for, it was the best cruise I've ever had in my life. And trust me, I know I can't afford it. But it was cheap because it was a repositioning cruise. It was crossing the Atlantic, and the tour organizer just had to go through the eclipse path. Sadly, he got us in the clouds. And that's what an eclipse chaser, my darling husband, looks like with a cloud out. And we were in the middle of the Atlantic, close, he was trying to get us close to max eclipse, but he just couldn't get us out of the clouds in time. The ship just wasn't fast enough. Great thing is that my job was with a company called Ericsson, and they had an office in Spain, in Madrid. And I had gone for somebody's birthday party 2 weeks before, and instead of flying home, I went and worked out of the office in Madrid, and then went on the cruise. I ended up spending a month in Spain, just hanging out. It was awesome. Great trip. And the next one, another hard to get to. So this is the point at where the totality is right there. This is the middle of the North Sea. Now you might have seen some pictures, point up a little bit from probably on the internet. If you do see pictures from this time, go look at the ones from Svalbard. They were amazing. Absolutely beautiful, cold, clear skies. They were stunning. We were on a plane flying over the Fiori Islands. We left out of Denmark, flew through the eclipse, another flight. Not so great of a picture this time, but we still got this picture from there. And there we are. Daniel's got the one eye covered. Who knows that about eclipses? Chris does. Anybody else? Just a little hint. What you want to do prior to totality is to cover up your eye so that one eye is dark adapted and the other eye can see. And then when you take off at totality, you can see a little bit more of the corona and the prominences and things like that because your eye's already dark adapted. Just a little hint. That's why you see him wearing the eye patch. But this was another great tour for me too. We went to Amsterdam, London, and Denmark. Much better totality, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Next one. Still good on time? Okay. Indonesia, 2016. Do you remember back when I didn't want to travel in the 90s? One of the places to go was Indonesia. Still a pretty cool place. Sadly, we got clouds right at totality. It was one of those things where you make the, go ahead and play the video. I think you might want to speed it up. There it goes. Yeah, play it up. Yeah. Because I did record all 3 minutes of this one. And all the locals are banging away. I believe, for those of you who've never been to an eclipse out of the country, that is standard in anywhere in Asia. Banging away, driving the dragon away from eating the sun. So everybody's beating on drums and everything else during everything. It was like that in China. I did give away some glasses and they kind of mobbed me, but I just backed them off with a good yell. Again, the eclipse is poking out through the clouds. My husband was able to get this picture. By the way, Daniel, my husband, does take pretty good pictures. So I kind of solved the whole picture taking problem. Now I just watch the eclipse and let him worry about it. But still, we still got totality. It was just through the clouds. And again, this one was 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. The famous eclipse everybody knows about. Okay, who went? Come on, show of hand. Most everybody, a lot of people went. Good, good. Right through the United States. Middle of August, clear weather practically for everybody, unless you went to like Kansas City. I had friends that got caught out in Kansas City. I went to a KOA just south of Madras, Oregon, and I took 22 friends and family with me, including my 80-year-old parents. My family could get me. Awesome. This picture up here is one of my favorite. You can kind of see the top, the shadow coming in at the top. When I took the panoramic, the shadow was coming in at the top. This is just before totality. This is my husband's great diamond ring picture. I like to say my husband gets me a diamond ring as big as the moon. You guys get it. You guys get it. I did include this picture because there is a personal story with this. 2 weeks before, no, actually not, more like the week before the trip, I found out I had ovarian cancer. And the one thing that the doctor says, okay, you know, it's pretty big. We can get you into surgery on Friday. I said, no, I'm leaving Saturday for the eclipse. I made that choice. I took care of it when I got back, and I'm cancer-free. Yay. But this is how passionate I am about this. I am willing to put my health at risk a little bit. I didn't think it was going to kill me in a week. But we went, so that's me with my head bald and a hat. And my husband and I went and got pictures taken like that, and this is why I love the man. He's just a fun guy. We took the pictures. But I do believe that I'm saved to be here for the 2024 eclipse. I'm doing personal outreach about the eclipse. I'm trying to get people to go see it, stand in the shadow. It's God's best magic trick. Anyway, this was just a wonderful eclipse for me. Friends, family. And even though I had this kind of hanging over me, I could ignore it because I was chasing eclipses. Next slide. Oh yeah, these were, they wanted to show off these pictures. Bailey's beads, some beautiful prominences, that great diamond ring. I married well. He did good on this one. All right, next slide. 2019, Bill. I was here at La Serena. My husband got a good shot of the diamond ring. We got some great prominences. I spent 3 weeks trying to learn Spanish in Santiago because I'm a horrible Hispanic. I don't know Spanish. Still don't know Spanish very well. It helped, it didn't. It helped for a little while. But I had a very nice, this one I did a self-tour, and I basically got a Airbnb in Santiago, and it was like on the 15th floor of a building in La Serena. I'm sorry, in La Serena. No, 6th floor. It was on the 6th floor of this building overlooking the ocean, and this was my view from the patio there. It was great. I loved it. I think, so you went inland? A lot of people I actually had dinner with several of my eclipse friends who went inland on that. Rio Hurtado, which was a little bit north. Oh yeah, you were somewhere you were inland, so you're somewhere in the path. I had friends of mine who went inland to almost to the observatory, and they got stuck in traffic on the way back. It was 8 hours getting back from that trip. Because if you remember, there was that little skinny road. That's one thing we're worried about here in Texas. We should be fine, though. We have lots of good roads. Next one. Am I still good on time? I feel like I'm going about right. The pandemic eclipse. The one that no one went to. My husband didn't go. He's diabetic. And he couldn't take the risk, or wouldn't take the risk. It was very, very strict requirements to go, and you had to be crazy to do it. I had to quarantine for 2 weeks prior to it. I had to take tests within 72 hours of getting on the plane. I was tested 3 times once I got to Argentina. But Argentina had better mask rules and was taking temperature every time you entered a building, so I actually felt safer in Argentina than I did in Texas when it came to the pandemic. I was one of 100 visas that were allowed to see to go see trace the total solar eclipse. And we ended up going into a windy, if you want to point where the totality is. We went to a windy farm in Fort Noguera, and it was, we'll play the video. Well, here, play the video first, and then I'll explain some stuff. Not going, why is it not going on full screen? Hear the wind? Where did that cloud come from? Right at totality. Yeah, still working on the video part. So this one was 2 minutes, 6 seconds with 30 seconds of cloud. So have faith if you end up with spotty clouds here in Texas. Okay. If you want to go ahead and stop it, that's fine. I could watch them all day. But if you look at this picture here, one of the other eclipse travelers by the name of Chris, not this one, the one on the left, that one, he ended up getting this is a rainbow around the eclipse. So he ended up with this great picture because of the cloud. And another guy by the name of Andreas Moeller also got that picture. This is actually Andreas's picture that he got after the cloud. Andreas sent all of his pictures over to Milosov, and Milosov processed them, and he was on the same tour because it was a small tour. There weren't a lot of people there for that eclipse. I was just one of the few Americans lucky enough to get in there and out safely. No one on the tour got sick. I tested before I came back because my husband's diabetic. I tested. It was going to be easier for me to quarantine there than it would be to quarantine at home. So I tested before I left. We were there and back without any incidents at all, and everybody was well. That was a good one. But again, a little bit insane. A lot of people opted out. Fred Espenak opted out. Glenn Schneider opted out. A lot of people opted out for this. Next one. This time, I went back to Antarctica for this one, but this time I was going to land. One thing I want to bring up here is the ease of travel in the 18 years, because this is my second Saros of Saros 151. This is actually the same eclipse I saw in 2003. It's the same one again. It's just shifted another third of the way around Antarctica. But I'm determined to land on Antarctica. So this time I did a cruise. Remember I told you the other cruise was $30,000 and took a month? This one was 9. That's how easy travel to Antarctica has gotten over the years. And there were 3 flights. The last one, there was 2 flights and that cruise in 2003. There were 3 flights and 11 ships attempted to see the eclipse. All of them full. 1 ship was successful, and it wasn't mine. I'm gonna let you guys show the sad video of the cloud out. But anyway, the other sad thing about this trip too was that the weather was so bad. We were supposed to land 6 times on Antarctica. We only landed once. The only good thing about this tour was the fact that I was with friends. We did a lot of eclipse partying. Go ahead and play the video. Everybody should know what a cloud out looks like, just in case. Can you make it bigger? Does it go bigger? All right. It's a short one. I cut it down to like 30 seconds. Shadows moving in. It gets dark. That's the midpoint. It's dark. Yep, I stopped it then. Okay. Anyway, that was my second cloud out. It's still pretty good. Only had 2 of that cloud outs. The next one. This is the last one. It's actually right now, it's my favorite. Again, 57 seconds. Do not calculate the cost of what it takes to travel to Australia to see 50 seconds of eclipse per second. But this one was fantastic. For those of you who don't know, the sun is climbing up to the high point of its activity cycle. And this was a short eclipse. And look how pointy it is. Everybody laughs at me when I say that, but it's the pointiest eclipse I've ever seen in the sky. I'm over there screaming, it's pointy, it's pointy. And I do have a video, but we can go through it later. But this friend of mine took this picture. Tom took this picture. My husband was all set up to take beautiful pictures and everything else. 2 minutes before totality, a screw came loose and his telescope fell off the mount. He got it back on and everything, but he just didn't have time to align it right. So all of his pictures are just that little itty smidgen off. He's still trying to find the right software to try to clear them up, but I don't think he's going to be successful. But my friend Tom got great pictures and shared them with me. I did go back to the Great Barrier Reef, and this time I had a diving certificate. And I went diving. So this is what I do. Again, it was here in Exmouth. You want to point out Exmouth, that where it's just barely right there. It's just a little smidgen right there. What happened to Exmouth is everybody got overly cautious about the eclipse. They promoted it. They did a lot of infrastructure for it. They were prepared for it. It was awesome. But then they said it was going to be too busy, so a lot of people didn't go. A lot of locals didn't go. And I don't want that to happen here in Texas. Because they thought it was going to be too busy. They were going to run out of food. Exmouth is in the middle of nowhere, literally. They didn't think there was going to be gas. There wasn't going to be food. There wasn't going to be supplies. There's going to be no place to stay. They had actually put in a bunch of campgrounds. They had festivals. They had a whole bunch of things for everybody to enjoy the eclipse. And they oversold the fear. Really. They really oversold the fear. They didn't even meet their normal tourist levels without the eclipse, which was kind of sad. But Australia has 4 more. That was a practice run for them. There's basically 5 eclipses going through Australia, and that was the first one in 15 years. So pick one. You want to pick one. Go ahead and play that one. See if you make it bigger. Does it let you make it bigger or not? I didn't realize it'd do that. I thought you'd pop it up, be able to pop it up. Nope, sorry guys. Yay, maybe. All right, we're watching it small. We're watching. All right, guys. I have a Texas Eclipse YouTube channel. You can see it there. I actually put. Okay, it's not playing. Oh well, it's on my YouTube channel, guys. I'll give you a QR code at the end. That's these prominences over here. So. Oh. So, okay, next, and that was the last one. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I think I'm about on time. Okay, April 8th, 2024. Everybody knows this one. It's coming. Yay! I'm sorry. Next slide. But what I want to talk about is the differences in technology between 1878 and 2024. Because the last total solar eclipse that came through Texas that was really worth anything was the one on July 29th, 1878. And this is a report on the observation of the total solar eclipse by Leonard Waldo, who brought a team of 6 people here to Fort Worth, to make an observation of the eclipse. And this is in my book, so I'm pitching my book here. But I have pictures of this. This is what he took as a, this is when I'm taking bad pictures, right? This is photography at its earliest. It was more of an art. This is a drawing that's photography. So I'm happy with I was happier with my pictures when I saw this. I do recommend you can actually get it for a free PDF on Google Books. It is an interesting read. Go ahead and flip to the next page. That's the crew. And as far as I can tell, they went to a farm. Apparently, the guy knew a guy, and they ended up on a farm here in Fort Worth of a bank cashier. And he lived on the farm off of Abrams and Vickery. But it wasn't called Vickery then. We're not really sure. We know it's a farm off of Abrams. And we know it's about a mile from the courthouse. And I did the calculations, and I kind of think I know where it was at, but nobody really knows. And the really interesting thing to me about the book is you had 5 scientists, and they were trying to find their location using a sextant. They were trying to figure out where they were. And of course, what happens when you put 5 scientists trying to figure out doing something like that? 5 different answers. And just averaged them up. But the report is like 62 pages, 25 pages were on where are we? I mean, he went through the calculations. They're documenting every single calculation. And then what time is it? Because we didn't have time zones then. High noon was a thing. What the courthouse would do was when the sun was directly overhead, they would bang high noon. Everybody would set their watch at noon. high noon was a thing. So when they actually spent, again, several pages in there, telling the story of trying to get a telegram or telegraph back to the Washington Observatory in Washington to set their watch by that time so they'll know exactly what time it would be wherever they were. It took them, they actually didn't succeed. They ended up successfully doing it by contacting somebody in Dallas by the name of David Todd, to set their time, but they weren't successful for those 3 nights because of thunderstorms. Welcome to Texas. And I was laughing out loud when I read the report when they were talking about setting their instruments and everything else and trying to do a dry run and everything. And he goes, our efforts were hindered by the bugs getting into the equipment. And remember, this is July. This is leading up to July 29th in Texas, and there is no air conditioning. Although they were staying in the fanciest hotel, the El Paso in Fort Worth, which had ventilated rooms. Anyway, I just take a moment to really appreciate GPS. Air conditioning, atomic watches. Just take a moment. That's one of the things that was the most fascinating thing about reading this. Anyway, these are the gentlemen. I don't know who is who on this picture. I have it listed somewhere else. Anyway, go ahead, next slide. This was the path of 1878. And look, Dallas, Fort Worth is the crossroads. So if anybody starts bragging about the crossroads of the annular eclipse, the Texas, we're the crossroads of the 1878 and the 2024. So we should be proud. Next slide. So Ceroses, I'm going to bore you real quick on this one and then I'll wrap up. This is my chart of Ceroses. So in my lifetime, I'm going to see these Ceros. My goal is to make it to that August 24th, 2063 eclipse, which will get me my 5th Ceros of that very first one that I saw in 1991. That's my goal. The bolded ones are the ones I haven't been to yet, and the other ones I've seen. But this is my chart. So I'm going to see 18, every 18 for Ceros 136. I've seen the 2029. I'll see the 2027. Pretty confident that one. 2045, getting a little aged there, but I'm planning on being there. 2063, I'll be 103. So, wish me luck. Next slide. A little insane. So everybody says, when's the next eclipse? And everybody's telling you, oh, it's going to be in 2045. No. The next eclipse in the United States and in Texas, a little bitty Texas, is in 2045. This is the next eclipse. Just get out of the country. You can go to Greenland or Spain. I'm going to Spain. I actually wanted to go to Greenland because I've never been to Greenland. But then the prices, I looked at the prices like, yeah, we're spending a month in Spain. For what I could get on the cruise to Greenland for a couple of weeks, I can get a really nice Airbnb in Spain. So I'm going to Spain. But this is the next eclipse. And the next slide. Did anybody see this when it was up on I-35? Because this just irritated me. This is somebody who doesn't even know what an eclipse is. Because they say it's going to be over Mount Olivet at noon, August 2nd, 2027. Are you ready for Christ? And they're getting a partial. If you go to the next slide. The total is over Luxor. If anyone's coming back, it's Ra. It was on 35E on the way down to Waco. It's gone now, thankfully. Well, it was posted. I saw it and I posted it on Facebook. It was crazy. But anyway, so this will be my 3rd Ceros, the third one of that's 1991 eclipse. I'm going to go ahead and end here. Go ahead and go next. Did want to talk about this. I am actually the North Texas coordinator for a scientific project called KATE. We are putting up 35 telescope kits, cameras, computers, and telescopes. Go to a team that is local to these areas to take scientific measurements. We're going to train them for taking scientific measurements for the eclipse. The goal is to get a continuous view of the eclipse all along the path. And the equipment is going to get donated locally for outreach. And what I would like to do is share you the names of my teams that do that, because they might need help doing outreach with the equipment. What we don't want happening is the equipment sitting in a closet. So this is one of my give back projects. Continue on the next page. I do have a podcast. One of the eclipse chasers that I met in that pandemic eclipse, he and I started this podcast for this one. So we're trying to get people to go see to go stand in the shadow. Next one. I do have a book out, Texas Eclipses. I tell the story about the 1878, and then I also tell some of the stuff I shared with you here today. And that's a code that'll get you to me. It's my Blink page. I am doing outreach. If you've come across somebody who wants to have a speaker or anything like that, I'm happy to do it. I just want people to get in the shadow. I'm trying to get as many people to come to my side of reality. With that, pray for clear skies and enjoy April 8th, 2024. Thank you. Yes, questions?
How fast does the point of totality travel across?
I think it's 25,000 miles a minute. Oh, I don't have it. I could show a video if I had it up.
1,600. It's
1,600. Thank you. Thank you.
16
miles an hour.
miles.
So, Chris, you want? You could
You
check.
can, you can for a while.
So there's a couple of flights. Somebody did back in when the SST was running. They did an hour-long eclipse flight, chasing it. And there's several people now that are doing some. Glenn Schneider, who I mentioned earlier, the one that did the 2003 eclipse, he'll throw up a plane, and they'll usually try to get in the path and outrun it, just a little bit. But they can't do it the way the SST did it. Yeah, I know. There's a really good video. If you guys want to text me or email me, I'll happy to send it out. Or I think it's in the list of videos I gave to you, Bill. From Great American Eclipse, he does kind of shows the shadow just coming all the way up through the states, and it's like over in like 9 minutes. From there to there is like 9 minutes, and that's it on that. No, it's not shot from the ISS. It's a simulation. But he shows it just the shadow crossing over, starting in Mexico, going all the way up into Canada. It's greatamericaneclipse.com. He does great stuff. He has great eclipse swag. I have lots of eclipse swag from there. Any other questions? More questions? Yes.
When you photograph an eclipse, are you do you have a solar filter on the camera?
Yes.
And do you take that off when it
Yes.
goes so? Okay.
That's what I do. I put it on the camera. The good thing with the digital cameras, you don't have that same issue that I had back in '91 where you're going to burn it. So
it won't burn a digital?
yeah, so you can actually take it off just a little bit before totality safely.
Okay.
But you want to keep it as close to totality as all. But you want to have what I did on
Put it
my
back on
that one video I had it screwed on, but just very lightly. So all I had to do is just pop it off real quick. So, and then my husband has a Vespra, which I really like it for the partial phrases, but you can't do anything with it for the total because it takes so long to reset. Because it's got a lot of brains, and it has to wake up and change what it's doing. So that's why he uses both. He uses the big telescope, and he's not even using a telescope. He's just using a big giant lens. And he's getting pretty good pictures.
I put a white light filter on the end of the telescope, and then right when totality starts, I'll flip it off. Have it taped, and then flip it back on.
That
That's
works.
my trick.
That works.
Anybody else have any questions? All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you for letting me go through the entire playlist.
Okay, everybody, let's take a quick break. We have a lot of material to go over and we're time boxed at 9:30. So about 10 minutes max.
That was
480-7792. 480-7792. Okay. Four 7787. Winner, winner, no chicken dinner. Four 480-7800. 480-7800. That one seems like there's a number missing off that one. Seriously. All the other numbers have 8 digits. Okay, I guess Phil's playing a joke on us. Based on what I'm reading, maybe that's supposed to be 480-7800. I only say that because the next ticket I picked out was 480-7801. I don't, okay. Okay. Oh, one person did, yeah. 480-7804, probably the same fellow. $804, yeah. 480-7804. Yep. Four 480-7798. 480-7798. It's probably Bill, and he's probably missed out on multiple opportunities. All right. Yeah, 480-7798. Do you have 800 and 801? Disqualified. No, go ahead. Okay. All right, Mr. Bill.
I'm going to make it dark again. All right, quick story. So we're just done with the solar eclipse in 2017, and we did the 4-hour drive. It took 45 minutes to get up to Madras, 4 hours to get back down to Bend. And so we're sitting in a bar, nice cozy little bar, and my wife's, we have a drink and stuff like that. And I'm like, where is the next eclipse? So she's like, yeah, I kind of wonder. So I'm looking it up, and I see that it's in Chile. And then I see my wife is drinking a glass of Merlot. And I'm like, hey, baby, you like wine. How about making this something that we can use to see the world, which is exactly what Leticia's doing. So it's such a cool idea, and it's a really good time. All right, so what's in the sky? From January 16th to February 20th, 2024, so it's the next month until the next meeting. What we've got in the background here is Fort Worth Astronomical Society's first collaboration of astrophotographers. This one was a test run to kind of a proof of concept, the idea, to ultimately get to a project where we're capturing possibly hundreds of hours of data and getting us just a super ridiculously deep picture. This one was done by Ashford, Kennedy, Lutch, Stinsick, Potts, and here. Sounds like the 70s prog rock collaboration or something. The next slide. And this is the picture. So this is the proof of concept effort right here. So next slide. All right, so bright comets this upcoming month. We've been paying attention. 12P, periodic comet number 12, Pons Brooks, is getting brighter. It's in Cygnus right now. This one is expected to be bright as magnitude 4.5 in the next couple of months. This is going to be a show. 62P, it's magnitude 7.3 in Virgo right now, and it's dimming. 144P, Kushida is actually still on the list here. 9.6 in Taurus and getting brighter. This Pan-STARRS one, 2021 S3 is getting brighter. It's in Ophiuchus. Did I pronounce that right, Chris? Ophiuchus? Did I pronounce Ophiuchus right? Ophiuchus? Okay, Ophiuchus. All right, well. All right, so next slide. All right, so for those that dig on occultations and close approaches, we got a couple of them. There's a bunch in the daylight, and I don't list those because daylight. But nighttime, we got February the 4th, just, starting before nightfall to about 9 o'clock in the evening is another lunar occultation of Antares. It's kind of fun to see a bright star disappear from the sky for a bit. Sunday, February 11th, from 11 p.m. to 3:06, we got a lunar occultation of Neptune. So there you go, occultation fans. Next slide. All right, and then January's full moon is Thursday, January 25th. Next slide. And then new moon is 14 days later, Friday, February 9th. Next slide. So January is not spectacularly, after about mid-January through mid-February, it's not really spectacular as far as celestial events is concerned. There was what was it? Quadrantids, the Quadrantids meteor shower that was a complete bust somewhere beyond the clouds was a spectacular meteor show that we did not see. But that's about the only thing that's going on in January besides the things that I said. So the constellation I'd like to feature tonight is Camelopardalis, which is the giraffe. It's right next to Ursa Minor in the sky. It never sets. Genitive name Camelopardalis. It's got 3 stars with known planets. It's got 2 named stars in it. It was introduced by Plancius in 1612, so this is an ancient constellation. So I've always wondered this, and I just learned this when I put this thing together. Camelopardalis, so camel is, the Greek word for camel is camelos, and pardalis is leopard in Greek. So they always considered the giraffe to be a camel leopard because of its long neck like a camel and stripes like a leopard. So if you've ever wondered why it's called Camelopardalis, you're welcome. So next slide. All right, so first object is Index catalog 342. So this guy is actually, if it wasn't, it's beyond, we're actually looking through the disk of the Milky Way to actually see this galaxy. If that weren't the case and we were just looking out and the Milky Way wasn't in the way with all of its dust and such, this would actually be one of the brightest galaxies in the sky. So it's actually a pretty good size. It's about 1819 minutes square, and it's got a pretty decent magnitude, and it's, of course, a nice face-on grand design galaxy. So next slide. So this is NGC 2366 right here. By the way, oh, hey, can you pop back one slide? Actually see you squint real hard and turn your head sideways. You see a camel, right? No? Okay. Well, you're going to take my word for it. So we got NGC 2366. It's a dwarf galaxy. Camelopardalis actually has a few dwarf galaxies in it, so it's kind of an interesting location in the sky with what it's got. It's got 2 super star clusters. So we're talking about like star clusters with like at least 1 million stars in it. We're talking about Omega Centauri sort of star clusters. One of them actually contains extremely massive stars. They burn hot, hot blue, and they probably live just a few million years before they burn up. And the other one is kind of just regular stars that are not so dramatic as the blue stars, but it's a cool couple of features in the galaxy. It's also interacting with NGC 2363, which is also a dwarf galaxy. So we got 2 dwarf galaxies that are interacting with each other. Next slide. So this is a cool one. This is a little string of stars. See this picture come up. So this, if anybody that's into asterisms in the sky, this one's actually a really cool asterism that I didn't know about. It's called Kimball's Cascade. So there was this friar named Lucian Kimball that found this. He was scanning the skies with I think 7 by 35 binoculars, and found this, and he was excited about it. So he wrote into Sky and Telescope, and I guess the way that he explained it with stars and cascade and stuff, they liked it at S&T, and what they did was they actually named this in the magazine. They named it, they featured it, and then they named it Kimball's Cascade after the guy that wrote them about it. And it's kind of cool, the sort of influence that S&T has, because now you can look up Kimball's Cascade on the internet, and it doesn't say anything about Sky and Telescope. So next slide. Okay, NGC 1569. Okay, so this is another dwarf galaxy. It's part of the same galaxy group as IC 342. And it also contains a couple of superstar clusters with an enormous amount of starburst formation. And each one of these clusters contain at least 1 million stars each, which is a lot of stars for a cluster. This is kind of small. So, you know, the things that I feature in this is the giraffe. This isn't like Orion or you know, Cygnus or something like that. So sometimes I'm showing things that aren't quite something that you can just look at in binoculars. But this one's a little small, but it's beautiful, and it's a notable thing in the constellation. So next slide. NGC 1501. So this one's even smaller, but it's pretty. It's also known as the Oyster Nebula. This is a planetary nebula. Interesting thing about this guy is that the center star actually might possibly be a binary star. And number 2 is that it's got a variability. So, you know, you don't see a lot of planetary nebulae with significant variability or notable variability, but this one actually has a variability of like a few hours. So it's kind of a mysterious, wow, this is sort of a special, unique planetary nebula with this sort of star in it. And I said it was tiny. It's less than a minute by a minute, but pretty, right? Next slide. Okay, so NGC 2403. I love this galaxy. I want to image this galaxy. It's over here. This is a Hubble picture of it. It's also a pretty good size if you got a pretty decent focal length, 22 minutes in length and about 12 across. This is, oh no, I did it. Oh no, go back one slide. Oh no. Oh, I forgot to change the text there. So go forward one slide. So there's a galaxy, and I don't know interesting things about it because I forgot to change the text over. I run through these things like a dozen times trying to fix stuff. So, all right, pretty galaxy. Next slide. So to go deeper into this constellation that nobody ever really talks about, there's actually 81 significant sky objects in Camelopardalis, and you can find them at these websites. And that's it. So next slide. All right, so keep looking up, and what we've got here is actually our very own Jim Potts. He just recently released this picture of the Triangulum galaxy, and did a pretty good job with it. So keep looking up. Clear skies.
Thanks, Bill. Go ahead and leave the lights off. No sense in blinding people more than 3 times tonight. Okay, so we're going to jump into reports here. Patrick, you want to talk about outreach real quick? He can't move real quick.
Okay, so where's the slide? Okay, so here's our first few outreach. We got a couple this week. We got one in Euless, I mentioned in the email, and also Saturday up near Rome. And then a week from this Saturday, we got our annual stop over in Mansfield, Oliver Nature Park. It always gets a good turnout there. So next slide. Then we got an elementary school there in Mansfield. We got a couple of schools there. You can see. Slide. And then we our last one, we actually going down to Hillsboro, the college there. They're actually going to gear up for the eclipse in April, but they want to mix in a star party there, so we have that. As usual, I'll post those on the e-group. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The Rising Star Development Report, that's going to be in a few minutes. Tom, anything for Palo Pinto?
Updated, get an updated progress on the park, scheduled to open spring of 2025. We have 160 members in this group of all interest. You're welcome to come out. We're going to have a report, and then we'll do a 2-mile hike if you guys are into hiking. So.
Okay. Anybody in the group have any announcements? Okay, so I have one. Oh, we have I'll be sending an email out. We'll have a working party at Thompson on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. That's to build out the new research grade telescope that's been donated to us. And That's all there is. Are you ready, Mr. John, for the treasurer's report? No, he has many jobs.
Okay, so there are actually two reports here because when we had the Christmas party, we did not do financials. But this is a let me make sure you're looking at the right one. I'm looking at the wrong one. I think we ended the year at 192 members. The total amount of cash money we have is the combination of money that's been allocated to projects, specifically Rising Star, and everything else. So I call the everything else the general fund. There's something else of a highlight in here. Scroll on down from that. The 2024 membership chart, that's always the slope before the cliff. And so we're moving up the cliff, or the slope, at 192. I think the cliff started at 201 or 202 last year. And let me see here. We had some interesting donations during that period of time. We actually got a $100 donation from Dalworthington Gardens based on efforts of Patrick. Kudos to him on that. We have ongoing badges and mailing letters to people, thanking them for their donations. And yes, so let's go on to, is there any question on this particular one? The December report? Let's go on to January. January is very little difference from December. The December report was done at the end of December 31st. We have one additional person that joined a day ago, I think, Lynn, right? So we've had one additional, we're at 193 now. The monies haven't changed much because there's not been any expenses or donations during this period of time. Well, yes, we've had a donation, but not anything large. I'm sorry? What? Okay, and that's all I have. Does somebody have a question? Any questions? I do have a end of year comparison between expenses and revenue for 2023 and expenses and revenue from 2022. I also have prior years with 2-year comparisons, 22-21, 21-20. Those are not on e-group. So if you're interested in looking at that information, you can ask for it and I can send you a copy. Except for 23. 23 has not been examined yet, so it's not official. That's it for me.
George, anything to report? Or website and media? Okay. So would you bring up the Rising Star So we're going to hopefully take 2 votes tonight. I'm going to take about 15 minutes to talk about Rising Star, and then we'll move to a couple of votes. The first slide, please, very beginning. Thank you. So what I'm going to talk about, this is a work of several people here, and it's what we euphemistically call our vision for Rising Star. I don't want to be in there. Okay. And so we purchased this property, it'll be 2 years ago in June, and now we're going to talk about what we'd like to do with it going forward for the next phase. Next slide, please. So here's our vision, okay? We want to make Rising Star an elite astronomy venue where people want to go. To observe the sky, whether it's visual or image or radio, or just enjoy an evening out there. It's a great piece of property. It's 4.5 acres. It's got 3.5 acres of very flat ground that we use. We want to make it a beacon for astronomy. We want to be able to improve our outreach, which is already very, very good. I would like people to call us to find out how we do outreach to help their program. So we have things coming along that are important to us. Cook Children's Medical Center, we are going to do our first indoor astronomy session for them in March. It's going to be a pretty big event. We're going to be in their new auditorium. They're rebuilding it. We were scheduled actually for Friday, but they're rebuilding that, and we're going to be the first group to use it when it's available. We've just restarted our Young Astronomers program. A lot of folks are out at the YMCA in Bedford helping out. Patrick and Chris Ashford, there are just a lot of folks out there. We had 51 families in attendance, and we're going to restart that program at the Y in February. And then we're partnering with an organization called the 1687 Foundation. There'll be a lot more coming out about that soon. They're going to pay us $1,500 for every star party that we do out there for them. And we reckon it'll be, and it's basically from March through November, and we reckon we'll be doing at least 2 a month. So, and they cater, they have an outstanding facility. They do equine, they have specialists, or basically what they do, if you're a 501c3 and you want to do programs out there, they will allow you to use the space, they'll feed you, you can stay out there, and they're booked out for a long time, as you can imagine. So they've asked us to enhance their program. It is in Cross Plains, Texas. It's 20 minutes from Rising Star, actually. And we want to expand our education partnerships with primary and secondary schools and colleges and universities. We did a program last summer for the HEB school district around the solar. And we're working with the HEB school district. They're going to have an astronomy program next year, so they've asked us to help them with do peer review, essentially. And we're reaching out through something called Peachtree to broadcast what we're doing to the school district and other school districts, actually. And then we have this partnership with Southwest Adventist University. And as we build out Rising Star, we hope that other universities may want to use some of our technology out there. Next slide, please. Oh, I'll go back one page. And we want to make Rising Star self-sustaining. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, what's needed? We've been talking about this for quite a while now. And so our current project items are storage. We are paying $180 a month to store our stuff in Burleson. It's a monthly expense, and essentially that equipment is not usable to us because it's nowhere near where it needs to be used by membership. Power drives everything. And it's one of the requirements for the club. And we need power so folks can go out there and drive their equipment. We can have internet and all that kind of jazz goes with it. Get the Noble Observatory built. We have equipment set aside for that. We're still figuring out what that equipment is going to be. We have several large scopes and some mounts, but we're drilling down on what that final technology suite's going to be. And then public and leased pads. Next slide, please. So our construction priorities, again, purchase and install refurbished shipping containers so that we can store our equipment out there and store our maintenance items. When we move out there, all the contents will go, when we build the astronomy building, all the contents from Burleson will go out to Rising Star, and we can close that monthly lease. Then we're going to contract with the electric co-op to install our power head, build the Noble Observatory. We have everything we need for that except for pad and power. We've been donated a Next Dome observatory. We have telescopes, we have mounts, everything we need for that. And build the leased and club pads. Next slide, please. So here's what we're talking about. This is a great picture of what we want to do and what's actually there. Bruce, who's online, and his team have done an outstanding job over the last 18 months to prepare the field for the next phase. It's flat, it's clean. They do a lot of work to make sure there are no shrubs out there, no mesquite branches, no cactus. So that's done, and it's a really great job. This is a small building here that it has a toilet, a chemical toilet in there. And it may not be chemical, it's a composting toilet. There we go. In it. And that's all we have. What we're talking about in this construction phase is building our astronomy building up here. And that's going to be in the trees, shaded. And thank you, Chris. And then over here to the right on along the north edge of the field and going east-west are Noble Observatory and then a lease pad for another observatory. And then we're going to build a few lease pads. These pads are 10 by 12, and the lease options on them are $2,700 for 3 years or $1,080 for 3 years. That means you have a place to go whenever you want to go out there. All the pads will be powered. You'll have room to put a storage box out there if you want. That's what we're talking about when we talk about lease pads. And then our public pads, they'll be 5 by 5 pads. They will be powered also. So these are the project steps here: power, astronomy building, and the maintenance building. These are the astronomy building is a 40-foot storage container, and the maintenance building's 20 foot. The leased observatory, that's essentially a pad, public pads, leased pads, and dirt work that's required to get things installed. So our estimated total is $41,400. These estimates were put together October, November timeframe. So we're pretty sure the numbers have changed a little bit. Although the two buildings we think are pretty accurate at the moment. We have we're going to ask for a vote on a not to exceed of $48,480. Any questions on this? Online, Chris, any questions? Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so funding. We have a new funding resource. I mentioned earlier the 1687 Foundation. I'm sorry? Oh. No, not yet. Southeastern corner, I'm sorry, that's a good question. The southeastern corner is where the maintenance building is going to go. The 20-foot one. Okay, thank you. So new funding resource, 1687 Foundation. Again, we're collaborating with them to produce star parties for their various events. And again, they are a 501c3. They focus on retreat ministry. The foundation offers weekend or week-long retreat facility and programs for other nonprofits. You got to be a nonprofit. You have to fit what their requirements are. And if you do, you can schedule to use their facility at no cost, which is outstanding. They want us to do star parties for them. And we'll receive $1,500 for each star party that we do out there. So we see this as a value add in two ways. One, clearly the money stream, but two, as we expand our outreach, the more we get ourselves out into the public view, the better we're going to look. So, and then the opportunity to draw more membership. Next slide, please. Okay, so the proposed funding. Oh, I'm sorry, any questions on the last slide? I'm just trying to keep us moving because we're time boxed at 9:30. Any questions online, Chris? Okay, so the funding plan. We're going to draw $7,300 from the project fund, and this includes donations and silent auction proceeds. We would like to draw $5,000 from the general fund. Have there's an anonymous donor who will donate $2,000 to the purchase of the maintenance building. We have one pad lease. We've received payment for that pad, $2,700. We have 2 3-year pad leases committed and 1 1-year pad lease. The pad leases are open. If you're interested, let us know. The bottom line is, if you're interested, the order of selection is the order of payment. So if you're interested and you'd like one, let us know, and we'll be glad to organize one for you. And then this just happened in the last 3.5 weeks or so. There's a member who's a long-term member of this club who has agreed to loan us $25,000 at 1% amortized once a year at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So The details are, the way it would work is it's an amount up to 25,000. The duration is 5 years. Interest rate is 1% accrued annually, and a minimum annual semi-annual payment of $180. And there's some more details to follow. And if at 6 months before the end of the 5 year, at 4.5 years, if we're not going to be able to pay the loan, then it'll be extended on a year to year. What we do. Any questions? Non-secured. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So how would we, I'm just looking at it. So how would we utilize it? We would treat it as a construction loan, for one thing. We would only draw funds from the loan after the club funds that are allocated to the project are expended. Okay? The loan would fund the next prioritized task. Proceeds from 1687 Foundation Star Parties will be allocated to the loan principal. Okay, so if we do 10 Star Parties for 1687, that's 15 grand. That money will go to the principal. Okay, we plan to go very slowly. We're not going to draw from the loan until we see how the 1687 Foundation goes. We got to see some money coming in. Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, any questions here? Okay, thank you. There's some pros and cons. Obviously it provides cash for us to complete our projects while we're raising funds. Okay, this doesn't mean we stop fundraising. Okay, we were able to, with the silent auction and a few other donations that came in at the end of the year, that was almost $3,800. So we continue to fundraise. This is just the first step. Our projects will be started and completed sooner. Completing phase 2, it's going to reduce the cost. Inflation is here, it's not going away. Construction material costs are skyrocketing. Okay? The loan costs are significantly less than inflation. We could actually draw $25,000, put it in a CD and make money. So, I mean, and it's well below.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Prime interest rate. It's well below prime interest rate.
Yeah. Well, I had a term in my head, but that's exactly correct.
I got you, pal.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. We've looked at this carefully, and the cons, it puts us in debt, no doubt. Okay. And it does create financial risk to the club because we'll have a note to satisfy. But we don't see any other cons doing this. Any questions? Online, Chris, any? Every public pad will have power, and I think we have, I think we're planning for 5 pads at the moment. Okay, next slide, Chris, thanks. Okay, questions, please ask. That's what we're here for. Sure.
from the chat. So why do we want to go into debt for this? It's a great rate, but it's debt.
Because honestly, we'll never be able to do what we want to do out there. We'll never be able to put pads. We'll never be able to put power. We'll never be able to get these storage containers because as we wait to raise all the money to do these things, the costs increase. I mean, it's a great question. But in our view, that's the principal reason. Okay, so the planned payment is semi-annually, and each semi-annual payment will be a minimum of 6 times $180. The $180 is the monthly fee that we pay for the storage in Burleson. And then whatever money that we get from 1687 goes towards the principal, and any directed donations would go towards the principal. Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that 1687 foundation?
What can we tell you?
Like, what is it?
They are okay,
What?
Bill, can you move because we're getting feedback. So the 1687 Foundation is a ministry that provides retreat facilities for other charitable organizations that like to take care of wounded warriors, autistic children, people with disabilities. That's what they do. They provide those facilities for those groups to have retreats. Yeah, and it's phenomenal. I mean, the facilities are awesome, and they don't charge anything for groups to go out there and use the place. And the people that run the 1687 Foundation are truly, they're really nice people. It's 20 minutes it's in Cross Plains, and it's 20 minutes from Rising Star.
I think it's like just
From
north
Rising
of
Star, from our
side.
dark side.
North-ish?
I think it's north. I honestly don't remember.
North or south,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
Yeah. So like if you're doing a star party, I envision that, what I would do if I'm helping is I'm going to get my sequence set up, ready to go, and then head on over. For imagers, that's pretty straightforward. And so any other questions? Yes, sir. Hey, Tom.
So the 25,000 is a line of credit. You're not going to draw down full 25,000
No.
up front, just as needed.
Just as needed.
So
when
hopefully,
needed.
if we do enough star parties at 1687, we may not even have to tap into the 25,000.
And it depends on how
You're right.
once we get approval to do the work, it's going to start. So we're not
Yeah.
going to, it's going to be a construction project. So, but we're not going to start anything until we see how 1687 develops, because we're going to be depending on it. Are there any other questions? No bad question. The only bad question is one you don't ask.
Where I get my exercise.
Just in terms of this being a not-for-profit organization, at $1,500 per for these nice star parties, in any kind of scenario, you make 5,000, you make 10,000 in a year, et cetera. If you do that, what are the legalities for the pass-through of that money? So do you say you make $7,500? Does that immediately go towards expenditures? Is there a fiscal year that 7,500 has to get spent in? How, or does it just sit in an account until something comes along? Is it indefinite? So what's the
That-
timeline for
any-
as you make
any-
money?
Any and all money that we get from 1687 would go first towards whatever we draw on the loan. If we don't draw anything on the loan, it just resides in the account.
It doesn't have to be spent any.
It does not have to be spent, but if we do draw on the loan, I mean, it's a set aside for the loan. It's directed specifically at the loan.
As far as the labor that's going to be involved for all of this, is any of it going to be contingent upon volunteers from the club, or is it all part of the contract for what the club's going to be?
Oh, as far,
we
okay.
can-
So there's going to be a lot of volunteer work by people in the club. We're still costing out the cement work. We're all not young chickens anymore. I do not want to have anything to do with mixing and pouring concrete. We think it's going to be more efficient, safe, and better to have one big truck in and plop, 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 and then we take care of, finishing the forms. Jim McCathern is our architect, and, he tells us that plan is a good plan, and he's working to get the cost. So that's what it's going to come down to. And figuring the offsets are, if you're thinking about volunteers, when you're coming out from here, there's a lot of gas money and time. And so, but in particular, getting a few hundred bags of concrete is a lot of work just in itself. And the other thing why we want to have it brought in is, what don't we have at Rising Star that you need for concrete? Water. Yeah. Oh. Okay, Robin, it's 5 years. It's a 5-year term. It depends on the vote, Monica. If we don't get a vote, then we don't, But if we vote tonight to go forward with this plan, our belief is that we would have our grand opening in June. Okay, thanks, Cy, for that clarification. This one. Okay. So, no, size clarification is semi-annual payments are $810, which is approximately 2/3 of the monthly rental fee, and should be paid off in 5 years if we do 13 star parties over 5 years. Okay. Christian, that is correct. But then you're fighting the rule of inflation. No, let's see here. Robin, my estimates are based on 10 parties a year. Yeah, so, but some key things about the loan, the interest is only calculated on the principal at the end of each year. At the end of the day, 5 years on what we're talking about, you're using 1687 to pay off this loan, and that kind of jazz. If we took the entire 25,000, the total interest would be about $270 over 5 years. Spend that much on coffee in 4 months.
I believe, if I understand it, that 1687 is asking for 3 scopes per star party,
Yes,
and that if you do 2 a month, then we'll have to organize teams of,
we're working on that right
Yeah,
now. Bruce has
so
already
we
started
can
on that.
rotate teams
Yeah.
in and out, and nobody could get burnt out, but.
Yeah, no, Bruce has already provided a proposal that's pretty good. We're working through it. We should have it, something squared away pretty quickly. It is not secured, Stephen. Yes.
When do you think the first 1687 event would take place?
February or early March is my guess. Late February or early March.
Up the agreement, aren't we?
Cy is not here today because he's not feeling well. He's supposed to sign it tonight. So we'll Cy and I'll get together and get that paperwork signed. Any other questions?
Probably add a point of clarification. So basically, our offering of doing star parties at 1687 becomes a menu on 1687 Foundation's menu. So if we're chosen to do star parties, then that's it. What they've anticipated is at most, they've been like kind of talking about possibly the idea of like 2 a month, right? I mean,
They're
how much
thinking of-
demand is there?
You're right. They're figuring at least 2 a month. So, and they'll give us plenty of notice and we can say yay or nay.
Say,
No. It's a good question to ask in there. We don't know what we're doing about that yet. I'm sorry? No. They have enough facilities for the folks that they have out there. I reckon the star parties will be a couple of hours. We'll be in and out. Any other questions? Okay. So all in favor? Okay, so we have the motion. Next slide, please, Chris. No. So we have 2 motions. The second one's dependent on the first. So there, so I'd like to make a motion that the membership approve the proposed phase 2 not to exceed cost of $48,400.
second.
And motion a second. If you're voting online, I think if you would. Okay, thanks, Si. I knew there was some mechanics. Okay, so we have on motion 1. It's seconded. All in favor? Raise your hands. Okay, I need to.
Do you want me to turn the lights on?
Pardon?
Do you want me to turn the lights on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
thanks.
watch
Okay,
your
watch your
eye.
eyes. Okay, 20 in the room. Pardon? Okay, so 20 and 13 is 33, which is more than the quorum. Motion carries. Okay. Motion 2 is to approve the proposed Phase 2 funding plan.
Second?
Second. So all in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. 21 in the room. 31, so the motion carries. All right. This is, I mean, for me personally, this is exciting because it's all about outreach to me, and outreach draws membership. And I think at the end of the day, that when this part of the of Rising Star is finished, then we'll be able to go to the former Abilene Club and say, hey, look what you have right outside your back door. And we'll be able to hit school districts out there. I think it's exciting to me personally. So,
Can I add something to that?
absolutely.
The one thing that touches me the most is what we're doing at Cook Children's Hospital. So we're going to do a presentation with remote astronomy that we're going to present to kids that are patients in the hospital. That's worth it to me. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. And for example, for our first one in March, Chris is going to be doing that. He's going to be doing the mechanical stuff from his house. We're going to have Velvet Bill doing the Friso work, but having the Noble Planetarium, the Noble Observatory there at our site, we'll be able to expand our reach. Anytime a school says, hey, can you help us do some solar? We want to look at the sun. Sure, no problem. We don't even have to come to the school. Go to this league, boom. Or they want to see comets or whatever. That's going to allow us to do that. And that's what's going to take us from being the truly great society that we are to the absolute next level. And that's my hope. Make a motion to.
I have one announcement. So I contacted the manager of World of Beer, and he said that they're advertising that they're under renovation, but that may not be the case, and they may close down. The World of Beer corporate website's already taken their site down. So anybody that's interested, come see me after the meeting.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions in the room or online? Hey, Monica. Yes. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, everybody, Tom Rothas.
More question. How long are you going to let 1687 run to see how that tapers out? 6 months lead time before you start tapping into 25 grand, or how you?
Probably no more than 45 days.
I mean,
Well, we just want to see that they're going to start.
yeah, we
right,
got to kind
so
of get the feel for it.
45 days from today, or yeah. So because everything is contingent on that actually working, right? Because otherwise we'd never pay it off, even at the very generous interest rate. So and the reason why it is 1% is it's the lowest you can go and be legal. So. Were you asking okay, all right. No more question. If there's no more questions, I'd like to make a motion that we close the meeting. All in favor? Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a warm drive home.